Okay, cool. So I wrote down a couple of notes to help me stay on track. Um, okay, so pregnancy, keto, my experience. With my daughter, who is 15 months old, I did a keto pregnancy and I was um, not afraid to keep my total carbs um, below 70 and my net carbs around 50. And I tried to do net carbs between 50 and 80, and I felt like that went really well. I was keto before pregnancy, and so I just kind of continued what I had done. And I was really concerned about keeping my weight down because in past pregnancies I had gained. This will be my fourth pregnancy. So the first two I gained so much weight and I ate so unhealthy and I had blood pressure issues near the end, especially. And then I was keto going into my 15-month-old daughter's pregnancy. I'll refer to her as Jenny because that's her name. And that'll be easier to keep track of what pregnancy I'm referring to. So, Jenny, when I was pregnant with her, I had so much energy. Even in the first trimester, I didn't feel fatigued the way that I had with the first two. And so many things were going 100% right doing keto during her pregnancy. And so my diet looked like, because I know a lot of people are like, well, what were your macros and all this stuff. My diet looked like just as high fat as I could get. All the cuts of meat were the highest fat, like thighs, chicken thighs, and sausage and pepperoni, and like the high fat meat. I would do a lot of okay, so at first I remember, now thinking back, I did this really high nutrient dense shake for breakfast where I would do berries, collagen, um, some coconut cream for the fat in it, and spinach for folate and stuff like that. And sometimes I'd put like cocoa powder to make it a chocolate shake, but I would blend that up with ice, and I'd do like a lot of it. My focus was to do a lot of food, just eat as much as I can. And I did have just a little window where I craved carbs big time and allowed myself with that shake like a piece of gluten-free toast that was like, I don't know, like 8 net carbs. It was not that much. And so anyway, that would be breakfast, and then lunch would be this chicken salad that I made with avocado mayo, just like extra mayo chicken salad made with chicken thighs instead of breast. And I would put like smoked almonds on top. And in the first trimester, like when you are just kind of feeling a little icky and stuff like that, I didn't have that as bad with Jenny's pregnancy. And I was like attributing that to keto, but you'll find out later that that's not always going to be the case. It just is going to vary pregnancy to pregnancy, apparently, because this current pregnancy had its fair share of morning sickness, and I was keto, so that's not always going to save you from morning sickness. But anyway, so my chicken salad, which I would put like a ton of celery in my chicken salad. So it had a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables. And in the first trimester, I would do some chips with that, like some sweet potato chips, or even just Kettle brand, where it's like fried in a healthy oil, and it's just salt and chips, just to settle my stomach. And so that lunch was always my best meal. So I would try to keep lunch really low carb because dinner was when I had my morning sickness most of the time. And I would feel like slightly yuck. I'd lay down on the couch, drink some water, and it would pass. And that was mostly the extent of my morning sickness. So it was really easy for me to do keto that pregnancy. I worked out more than I had with any other pregnancy. I didn't do prenatal workouts. I did regular workouts. I really enjoyed doing fitness blender during my pregnancies. I just wouldn't do anything that like if it required me to lay on my back, I would modify it to where I was on my side, or I would just change it up so that I wasn't depriving baby of oxygen, anything like that. So that's what diet and exercise looked like. Okay, I got to July. So I got pregnant in January and I got to like July. So I was 6 or 7 months pregnant when all of a sudden our schedule changed. And I was trying to lower my carbs a little bit more experimentally. And I was just really satisfied doing super high fat, and I feel like my focus on getting nutrients went down, and it was more like on eating a ton of fat. And I feel like this was a mistake because I ate so much fat that my hunger signals went down, which with pregnancy is not always good, because if you're not hungry enough to eat, oftentimes you'll ignore eating, then you're not getting the micronutrients that you need. So that was a mistake, number one. Number two was my husband was working 2 jobs at that point because he was teaching a class, and it was just me and the kids most of the time. And there was just like a bunch of random things that happened that month that were so stressful, and it was like external stuff affecting me emotionally. And so there was a lot of stresses, plus I was not very hungry because I was eating probably too much fat. I know, like there are people in the keto space who will probably say, you can't eat too much fat on keto. But for a pregnant lady, I believe personally, this is a personal, like, not based on science or anything like that, but I think that you can eat too much fat when you're pregnant if you're not hungry, like if you're hardly ever hungry. You're just eating so much fat that you're satisfied by the fat, and then you're not hungry for things that will give you micronutrients. Because it's really hard to make yourself eat when you're big pregnant. When you're big pregnant and you're feeling full. You're feeling full of baby, and then you're feeling full of food, and it's like, I don't want to eat. So that was a mistake. And then the stress, so I feel like that was causing stress because my body was asking for micronutrients, but I was satisfied, so I wouldn't eat extra food that I probably needed.